Hey, thanks for checking out Live on Tape Delay, episode 496. In Western New York, I'm Chris Wilson. On the other end of the internet, John Rabeans Raycroft and Rob Fiasco.
Oh boy, have we got an episode for you. We finally get a recap of Ray's weekend adventures to the mountains, and there's more fires in Chris's future. I probably did some stuff, and then man, I found this new quiz site that has all kinds of quizzes. So we're going to get together and take a whole bunch of quizzes. Like we'll just see what comes. It's going to be, I'm stoked because this is pretty cool. And you know how we love quizzes. So stick around for that. It's going to be a great episode.
Loyal listeners, thank you for sticking around for 496 episodes. We appreciate it. We are here for you. We will not go anywhere ever. So thank you. Here's 496. Enjoy.
Flowing so grand, oh yeah. For the well endowed, it's a royal chair. No more squishing, no more splashing around in the jar where pride's unbound. The extra room to spare, it's got the flair. For the giants among us who need the care. No more bending just to find your space. In the big dick toilet, it's always ace. The extra room is there, it's got the flair. For the giants among us who need the care. No more bending just to find your space. In the big dick toilet, it's always ace. Big dick toilet is the place to be. Flush away your troubles, set your spirit free. Big dick toilet, and it sets you right. Comfort on the clapper all day and night.
What up, boys?
Hello.
There we go. Now we got it all. Now it's all
Now
working.
I can see all. I was wondering where the faces were. I heard the voices, but there were no faces.
How long have we been using Discord? And every time I boot it up, I'm like, where's that camera button? Oh, it's the one that looks like a camera with a line through it. Oh, you'd think I'd know by now. No.
Right.
What's
going on?
It's the one on the left. Nothing. I have my tea, my peach, ginger, turmeric. I don't know why. Like, that's usually not my thing, but walking down the
Sounds good.
grocery store aisle, I was like, I'm going to get that. It is. It's pretty good.
I've got a Yogi bedtime tea myself here. I do like the drawstring. Is it the tea? What do you call that? What's the official term?
I don't know. The string with the little
string
thing on the end.
Yeah, because like the sleepy time, you just like dump it in there, and then I'm like, and then you kind of go like fish it out, and I just
I want to say, in my vast tea experience,
right.
The Celestial Seasonings ones, which I think makes the Sleepy Time one, and I've got another one, a Bengal Spice that I like a lot. I think that's their thing, where you just like throw it in the cup and add the hot water. I like, but then you got to stir it, you got to play with it with a spoon to get it to steep. I do prefer the string, so you can dunk, you can steep properly.
Correct.
Yeah.
I want to start this episode out on a grim note, but I just got a disturbing email.
Uh-oh.
And I am going to forward it to both of you. Chris, you can read it aloud to the listeners. I don't know what their thoughts are going to be. So, all right, I forwarded it.
I'm the designated story reader, as I have been for 20 some years.
At least.
Okay.
Since the 90s, since the
30 some years, probably.
The jizz blanket days.
Yeah.
Since I was an infant, pretty much.
So looks like, I don't know, looks like a lot of people have been involved in this thing. It's just, I don't know, not what I wanted to hear at the start of the episode, but.
Okay. Subject. Immediate update on episode length and payment. Bayhoo Broadcasting Corporation. Interesting. Dear Chris, Rob, and Ray, sorry to spring this on you last minute, but we've been covering the costs of your podcast for years now, and it's finally become a breaking point. I have no idea what you could possibly be doing with $1 million a week, because honestly, you all look broke. Is it drugs, quick draw, chicken wings? Seriously, guys, help me out here. We started off with a simple 1 penny per episode, but thanks to that 4% increase for each released episode, you're now somehow pocketing $3 million per episode. Whoever on the board agreed to this must be having a good laugh. Are you paying them? Is it Jim? Ben? You can tell me, guys. Behu is not pleased. Here's the thing, guys. I like how it's pretty down to earth here. Yeah. Here's the thing, guys. We've tried to make this work, but you should know that sacrifices being made behind this. That there are sacrifices being made behind the scenes. Martha from accounting had to sell her house to keep this thing afloat. Martha. Even Ted in IT took on a second job delivering pizzas. He's driving a 2003 Honda Civic with no air conditioning. And Bob from HR, he's been renting out his garage on weekends. So, for this episode only, we've got to make a change. You'll be limited to 35 minutes of actual recording. The rest are AI co-hosts who, unlike you, work for free. If listens go up, maybe we'll talk about extending the format. If not, well, let's just hope you still have jobs after this. Bottom line, you better hope no one listens to this one, fellas. Good luck. Warren P. Kincaid, head of network programming, Behu Broadcasting Corporation. Well, that comes a little out of nowhere. I mean, I didn't realize we had to turn over our personal statements of where their money's going. Maybe it is Quick Draw. Maybe it's not. Is it any of Warren's actual business?
I don't think so.
I wouldn't think so either. I mean, I thought he worked for us, actually.
All I'm saying, if you're listening to this episode right now, just stop. Please, for our sake. We do not want to be replaced, okay? We can work something out with Kincaid and the Behu Broadcast Corporation, BBC.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel bad for Martha. I feel bad for Ted and Bob over there in HR. Like, I don't know how that's really our fault.
Did they feel bad for us when we were taking 1 cent per episode?
Exactly.
I don't feel that bad for Ted because I don't have a car. So you're better than me, Ted.
So a 2003 Honda Civic is technically, it's more wheels than Ray's got right now. So I'm not sure how to, and way to guilt trip us. Behu is not pleased.
How do we know he's not renting out his garage just for extra income? People do that all the time now. I'm not sold on this.
Yeah, he's saying that he's doing it because he has to. I don't know about this. I wish it was drugs, Quick Draw, or chicken wings, to be honest.
And how long did Martha own that house she sold? You know, did she buy it like decades ago when it was like an eighth of the price that it sold for now? Like, yeah, she might. I don't know the details here.
It may have been just simply a fiduciary decision. I don't know that this is our fault.
Martha, hello.
I don't know.
I need to see your statements, BBC.
That's right.
Yeah, that's like I said, I was under the impression that they worked for us, not we worked for them. So this is kind of coming out of nowhere.
That's what I thought. Either way, I mean, we'll abide, but
I guess. All right.
So we'll be cut off. We'll be replaced, guys. That I want you to know, from about the 35, maybe 40-ish minutes on, that's not us. We have been replaced because the BBC doesn't think we're worth the $1 million an episode. That's bullshit. And you can boycott. Stop this episode right now. Well, wait till 40 minutes. Then stop.
Just to show them.
Just show them.
Yeah.
Don't listen. Don't listen like 40 minutes. And then they'll see. They'll be like, oh.
I mean, I see that legal was this email was sent to us. It was sent to Martha, Ted, Bob, and legal. So like we can't even really go to legal and say, hey, do you guys work for us or do we work for you? Like, I don't know where to turn here I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, we'll think about it.
Interesting.
I don't want this to derail what will be a good 38 minutes now.
Yeah. That's
we got a lot to get to.
I don't want to let this wreck my day, but I don't know what it means in the future here.
I don't know.
All right. Well,
like I said,
we'll see.
We better hope no one listens to this one.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, there's
Moving on.
495 other ones you can go listen to where they have to pay us the $3 million.
That's right. Well, yeah, on a sliding 4% scale.
Or already did or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We're rich, bitch. Ray, you did things. And first of all, you didn't tell us about it last episode, and I was kind of disappointed. So you better wow us today.
I just realized as we were sitting here, I checked every other setting except for the one setting that I really wanted to check. So I'm going to hope that this will work. Otherwise, I may have to restart real quick, and we'll have to just let them. I don't even know how to fucking share a screen on.
Jeez. I know what Mr. Kincaid's talking about.
All right,
amateur hour.
I thought it was bad that I didn't know how to turn my camera on. Ray's having a hard time sharing his screen, so
looks great.
It does.
Well done. We can come back to you. Did you do anything?
Did I do anything? This week has just been a grind.
Ooh, did you go to the Apple Festival?
I did go to the Apple Festival. Yes.
Was it noticeably different?
It was noticeably different. Anybody who's been there before, I tend to only speak to Chautauqua County people, I guess. Like, you come in from either end, and it's usually like just a straight line. What's that?
You speak for Chautauqua.
Okay, yes, fair enough. But it used to be like a linear line. It went on like the one road. Yeah. It started, there's a little mill there, a little cider mill, and blah, blah, blah. And it goes, and you walk like a mile down to the other end. And there's vendor tents and things like that, and food trucks and whatever. Yeah. It was all, I kind of liked it better, but it may have been smaller, or it just felt smaller. I'm not sure. But you walk into like the main gate still, and they opened it for 2 days this year. So I think we went on Saturday morning, like as soon as they opened, like 11 o'clock in the morning.
Nice.
And I pulled right in to like by the gate, and there's like a mechanic shop or something. He's like, park here, $5. I'm like, fucking done. So we did that, and we were like right there. All the food trucks and stuff were kind of clustered right there at the entrance. And then off, like behind another building up there, they had all the vendor, like 3 rows, double-sided of the vendor. So it was all condensed down into like one little field, more like a traditional craft show would be. So we walked around it, and we really got to see all the vendors like multiple times. We stopped into a couple of them. I didn't buy a ton. I bought some pickles. I stood in the pickle line forever, only to get up to the front, and the pickles that I wanted to get were sold out. So anyway, but I did get some good pickles.
Sold out
of like
on the first day, in like the first hours of it existing. Then they did not stock well.
It was like, it's just a little mom and pop operation. It's like, that wasn't even
bullshit.
A business.
It's gonna stay that way.
She did say
the way they're doing business.
She did say if you come back later, they will have more. It's just they were selling them faster than they could get them there, or something. I don't know what the story was. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to be here all day. But anyway, so I got some good bread and butters. Very good. But yeah, I mean, good for them. But she had no idea like that they were going to be that busy. And I think, I mean, one, it's it's pickles. A lot of people like pickles. 2, they were right at the end of like one of the rows. So, cause they had them, if you picture it like if you look down on it, like a ladder, like, so there was 1, 2, 3 rows, double-sided, but then they had vendors going up the sides, like where, if it was a ladder, like the sides of the railing. So the pickle place was right at the intersection. So you had to walk by it going one direction. You walked by it going the other direction. The line went like halfway down the one vendor aisle. So, I mean, I hope they made some money. It was good.
I'd love a candy apple, but I don't think my teeth could ever handle that again. But
yeah, I'm still on post wisdom teeth slight I don't know. Like it's fine. It doesn't hurt, but I'm still kind of conscious about it.
What's the other one? Is it fried dough? Is that
fried dough? Yeah, and they had some fried dough stuff there.
Cider.
I did buy some cider. We bought some mini donuts that they make like right there.
Nice. That sounds good too.
My kid got like a sandwich from one of the trucks. I got
one of these days.
I got an Italian sausage, but
nice.
it was cool. We were there for probably just shy of 2 hours, and it started raining. So and it was threatening all day. I was smart enough. I brought the golf umbrella so we could, I thought it was going to rain.
That's cool.
So we kind of did everything we wanted to do, and then kind of just scuttled off. So I'm glad we went.
Our weekend was ruined by Helene. Not like other people's weekends were ruined by the weather, but ours was inconvenienced by the light wetness. So I didn't really do anything. So now back to Ray. You like that?
That was good.
There we go. All right. Let me, my computer's running so slow right now because I have so many windows open. Let me just close out of something real quick. I am so sorry. This is just not working out in my favor today.
This is embarrassing. And you want to be a streamer.
So Saturday night, the weather did clear up enough, and I did have a fire. We went out and
nice.
Actually we had a fire Friday night and Saturday night. Yes. Friday night we did s'mores, which was pretty awesome. That was the kid's idea. She's like, let's do s'mores. I'm like, yes, I'm in. So we did that. Nice. Ben and my sister came over. So that was fun. And then I did another one Saturday night. And then I did another one last night. I do believe I'm addicted to fire now.
I will be in town next Friday and Saturday.
Okay.
Just saying if.
I'm just saying. Friday night, you want to come over?
Yes.
I'll fire up. Let's cross our fingers for good weather.
Yes.
All right.
I'll get some s'mores.
Sorry.
Oh, okay. Enough with the s'mores.
Now I'm ready. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Anyway, I was going to try to record this so we could post a video and show BBC that we're worth something, but my Mac apparently does not like running OBS with Discord and Brave running, so we're just not going to have the video to go along with this. Sorry.
How do these kids do this? Like, what are they all running?
I don't know because
we all just like terrible. Like we just have like bottom of the barrel.
Probably.
Computers.
Anyway,
kids.
Yeah, probably. Mine will struggle to do it. I'll try. Do you want an update? No. Remind me later. Thank you.
So anyway, so we decided a while back that we wanted to get away from society for a weekend. So we decided on going to Arkansas, except I don't think we realized when we signed up what this fully meant. So we got the timeline pulled up here from Google Maps.
How did you sign up for? Did you say you signed up?
We rented an Airbnb.
Okay.
Yeah, so because we found some places we wanted to go hiking, some views we wanted to see and things like that. So we found an Airbnb that was kind of center to all of those. But I underestimated when people talk about the Ozark Mountains in Arkansas that they actually mean like actual mountains, not just like hills. Like I'm used to like Texas mountains, which are just, you drive up some hills and that's it. Like, so that's what I kind of anticipated. And we left a little later on Thursday than what we intended. So like the drive up there, you're just driving through Northeast Texas, which is just weird highways that go through towns that force you to slow down. And then as soon as you get into Arkansas, you get on actual highways. And so the whole way up there is just actual plain highways. It's normal. And the sunset about the time we were going through Little Rock. So the entire drive from Little Rock up until about Knoxville, Arkansas was on just full highway, just normal highway in the dark, no issue. Only weird things at 75 miles an hour the entire way, which was fine, but it was just faster than what I anticipated. But we turned off on this little road in Lamar, Arkansas, and it was State Highway 123 in Arkansas. And by then it was dark. There were no lights. So it was like a 55 mile an hour speed limit. I was doing maybe 25 because there's a lot of sharp corners I couldn't see and I was unfamiliar with the road. So it took a while to get up there. But because it was so dark, I didn't fully understand what that road was as we were driving in on it. So basically we got to the Airbnb after dark. We set up, we had our little cheese plates. We got the Rebel cheese, which is some vegan cheese. We did some vegan pepperoni, some olives, some other things. We had a nice little time with a little bit of fire. Then we heard the coyotes howling. So we were like, okay, we're going to go inside and enjoy this, watch a movie. Because we want to be out here.
No coyotes. No coyotes at my fire.
Yeah, no coyotes at your fire. But so we were just kind of getting set up, getting used to it. Heard the coyotes, went inside. It was just a calm evening. The dogs were tired. It was whatever. So we wake up the next morning, and I'll pull up the timeline here so we can kind of talk through the next day and everywhere we went, because that's where it kind of got. What are you doing here? Okay, there we go. That's going the right way. Because that's where I started going. We started realizing what we were in for. So we woke up the next morning. The Airbnb was this RV on the back of these people's property, and they were a quarter of the mile or more away from us. So you couldn't hear them. You could barely see them. Like, there was no interaction with people. You couldn't hear anything from them. There was no sounds other than the animals. It was awesome. There were no planes flying overhead. There was no haze in the sky. There was nothing. It was just, you heard the cows when we woke up. I had my little cup of coffee out in front of the RV, sitting there, just nothing but the cows around. It was great. Nice bokeh effect there, by the way. Thank you. Grab some pictures of the dogs on there and all that stuff. So we decided, we found this place that was up this little road from our RV, or what looked like up this little road. So it's just up this, I don't know, there was a road going to this hike. So we thought it was a normal, you drive up there, it's a short little hike, you get to go see these great views, all these things. We didn't realize that just because there's a road in Arkansas doesn't mean it's meant for every single vehicle that's on the road in like Houston. So we got up, we made it up about to whatever this was, this little turnoff here from the Strawberry Loop. And that's where things started to get a little shady, because at that point, it's just a dirt road going through a mountain with really sharp switchbacks. You can kind of see them in there. It's straight uphill. There was one moment where we were going around a corner, and it was one of those where you've got just enough momentum, but there's a hill, so you've got to floor it to make sure you've got enough momentum on the tires going. Because if you don't have that, you're going to start sliding backwards. It was really shady. It's funny to me that you had to leave Texas to get to a Chainsaw Massacre. That's all I can picture right now is you're out. It gets better, because this first one, there was nobody there. There was nobody on the road. We get up there. Views are worth it entirely. This is what we saw up there. Those are beautiful. It was Arkansas for miles, just trees and all sorts of other stuff. You could just see for forever. In this one, I edited a little bit. So you can even see the birds flying up there. You can see even further because I removed some of the haze. It was an amazing view. There's another little trail that went off the side a little bit. I'm too scared of heights, so I couldn't go over there, but Laura went over there with one of the dogs. So I took a picture from over there. It was a long distance over there and a big drop in between them and one little trail that went over there. It was kind of sketchy, but we made it. And then at that point we were like, okay, well, and again, there's no cell service here either. Let me point that out one more time. Google Maps was working literally just as a map at this point. You could look up things, you could see the roads, but it could not tell you how to get to them. So you had to be able to actually, read a map. I don't recommend this for people who can't read maps. Okay. So that skill still is a viable skill in the world in Arkansas. Okay. In Arkansas, it definitely is. So all right. That's good. Because at this point we were here on this road, and it was a good probably 40-minute drive up there. So it was well, we can't turn around and go back because the road's honestly not wide enough to turn around. So we kind of have to just keep going forward. So then we end up on, again, I mentioned that 123 road. It basically goes all the way through those mountains from where we were to the other side of them. But this dirt road we were on connected back to 123. And I saw that there was this little thing called the 123 Falls up here, which we tried to stop and go to. But this is where it started getting Chainsaw Massacre vibes, because it was just this, it was this trail, but really steep, and it just kept going for forever. Supposedly there were falls somewhere down there, but we both just started we've seen enough horror movies that we're this is how people get murdered. We just keep walking down the trail. I've seen Deliverance. Yeah. So we were okay, maybe the falls aren't here. We'll turn around. There's a schoolhouse up the road. We'll go try and check that out and see how that goes. So we pulled up to the schoolhouse. It had the school sign there, Union Schoolhouse. It had been there since 1886 when it was originally built.
Oh, wow.
So we pull up to it, and there's all these RVs setting up. Well, apparently the great-grandchildren of the people who originally attended the school when it was first founded still maintain the school to this day. Like they still live in the area. They do all the work on it. They keep it up. They do the presentations when people show up. They'll give you the tour of it, tell you the history of it and all that stuff. So we parked and we were walking up. The guy's like, yeah, come on in. I'll give you the tour. I'll tell you all about it, all this stuff. He's like, yeah. And he was telling us how his great grandfather went to school there, how they have a family reunion there. And that was the weekend of it. So that's where all the RVs were going. Wow. Like all these people were setting up for their family reunion at it.
So you legit just stumbled into the family reunion and were invited in. Like that's awesome.
And he gave us the full tour. Like it was just this little 2-room schoolhouse. The chalkboard in the middle could go up to make it 1 room if they wanted like a big dance or something. But it was literally just like a tiny old schoolhouse that they maintain, they keep up with, like all that stuff. The weird thing about it is up these creepy stairs here, they had a Masonic temple on the 2nd floor of it.
All right. I don't know what to make of that. Like that either makes it cooler or it adds to the mysticism of it. I'm not sure.
It definitely did. And like, the vibes were weird up there. Like in the main rooms, it was like, okay, this is just a schoolhouse. But up there, it was like something happened here for sure. Yeah. I don't know what it is. Like there's this little stove up there. They had the platforms at the different levels because apparently you have to enter through one door and they have this whole ceremony where you have to stand on different levels. You advance to them. And he was telling us all the details of it. It was weird. And then his cousin showed up and walked in with his gun on his hip, but they were the nicest people ever. But it was still just an odd experience and felt like the opening of a horror movie where like all of a sudden the family showing up and we're just here. We're tourists. We're going to get stuck here.
You are dinner.
Yeah, that's kind of what the vibe we got. So we were like, okay, we're going to go and get out of here. So we left there. We wanted to go get some lunch. So there's this one little grocery store in this town. This town in Arkansas that we went back to on the way back to our place is called Hagerville. And it is literally, the grocery store there is the size of this room I'm in. It's this old metalhead and his vegan wife who own a deli in the middle of the small town. It's literally the only restaurant in the town. And truckers just stop by there for sandwiches on their way through.
I don't know why I love that so much. Like every detail of that is beautiful.
But it's such the small town feel because we were like, hey, we need some seasoning because, you know, like Airbnb, sometimes they have oil and seasoning and stuff. So you don't need to bring all that. This had none of it. So we were like, we just need something more than salt and pepper. So he's like, I'll sell you some of this Sloppy Mama seasoning I have, or do you want to buy the whole thing? Like he was offering to sell us like just tiny amounts of things, like whatever we needed. He was going to cut us a deal to just get us what we needed basically. But yeah, we ended up buying the whole thing. He sold us a little thing of canola oil in an 8-ounce mason jar out of a 64-ounce can. Like, they were the nicest people.
Literally just portioned it out. And he's like, here, give me whatever. Like, just haggling. Yeah. Like, that's, I don't.
He was like, we have
like to know that still exists.
Yeah, he's like, we have a $5 minimum on the credit cards. Like, I wasn't going to charge you $5 for this. I'm like, I don't care, dude. Just charge me $5, whatever. Yeah. Like, take whatever you need.
You're hooking me up. Call the rest a tip. I don't care, you know? It's $5.
So we went back to the RV. Here's a quick little video of the outside area, which I know listeners can't see, whatever. But this was a view outside. It was literally just like they had all these outdoor games. You can see their house off in the background there. Had a little hot tub, a little sitting area, a little fireplace, a little Blackstone griddle. So like it was just a lot of outside time. Made some tacos.
That is so cool. I never would have thought of having is that a common thing? Not to interrupt your story, but a common thing to like be able to Airbnb a camper. Like I never even would have thought of that. That's brilliant.
One we looked at, it was literally this guy just owns 15 acres with nothing on it. He's like, you rent 15 acres, do whatever you want out here.
No shit.
Yeah, it's like it's primitive camping. Bring all your own shit in, but you can do whatever you want. I don't care.
Wow.
Yeah. That's the implication.
Yeah.
That is the implication.
Origins. Sorry. Was that out loud? My bad.
But yeah, so the rest of Friday continued. We knew this little church was up the road. We wanted to go check it out. It was, they were doing maintenance inside, so you couldn't actually get in it. It was locked. So we just kind of walked around the outside of it. I grabbed some pictures of it.
That, by the way, is the church from, what's that, that Netflix show with the priest and turned into the vampire there with,
I know. I was just
Midnight
watching
Mass.
something. Yes. It looks exactly like that church. Just a small white single building with one room. Like, it was creepy. It didn't help. There was a graveyard across the street from it. So we did go and walk around the graveyard for a little bit. And like,
I like
this graveyard is,
people lived.
that was a crazy thing, is this graveyard had been there for so long that like some of the headstones were just infant baby of this family, because it was so long ago. It was like before they gave names and things. So it was just, the baby was born. If it lived, then they would give it a name. If it didn't, they would just bury it as an infant. And those are some of the headstones in there. Just infant baby of this family.
Maybe it was those abortions in the 9th month.
Probably.
Yeah.
There were some people in there where they had lived from this one right here. They lived from 1894 to 1974. So they literally saw the development of the first flight, people landing on the moon, phones, TVs. Like, they saw all of that developed in their lifetime.
But look at what we'll see in our lifetime.
Oh,
Exactly.
Sure. But I mean, to live,
cool.
I think it's more impressive to live 80 years at the turn of that century. You know what I mean? Because that had, what was the lifespan in 1900? You know, it wasn't anywhere near what it is now. So they made it like that. That's the equivalent of like a 110-year-old now.
Yeah.
With age inflation.
Yeah. So we walked around that for a little bit. And then also in Arkansas, you can pretty much just park anywhere on the road and just go hiking. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, as long as there's no sign saying it's private property, you can just go walk anywhere. So on the way back from the chapel thing, we saw this little hiking trail off the highway, and it was just this little river that was going through. So we just walked around that for a little bit with the dogs and just kind of explored. There's these cool, like, little, I don't know, I'd have to assume like fairy looking areas. Like, if I were to imagine like where you would get attacked by wood evil demons, like it would be something like this.
Okay.
You know?
Unmarked clearings. I'm not sure. It's either that's where the master sword is, or that's where you're going to get jumped by.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we walked around that for a little bit and ended up just going back to the RV and hanging out. And then that was the first night that we realized the sunsets there were different, like just in every way, like, because the sky would start changing early on, and it was just every color you could imagine throughout the process. Like, you can see some of these here, like there's blues and reds and oranges and just colors you like I don't see here in Houston because of all the haze. Like, it does not exist.
Sure.
So like we just got totally distracted by the sunsets because they were awesome. And then so that was Friday.
That's all in one day. That's an incredible day right there. For me, I'm like, oh, so you were there a week. Wait a minute. No, like that's incredible.
Yeah, so that was one day. And then on Saturday, there's one specific hike we wanted to do. And again, it was just going up these mountain roads. Like, these weren't too bad. These were all paved. It was this turnoff about here onto whatever, Cave Mountain Road or whatever. That's where it turned into a dirt road. And there are houses up there with mailboxes. Like, there are people who live up in these hills on these dirt roads, 50 miles.
What do you do if you have an emergency?
I don't know. We were trying to figure that out the whole time.
That's just insane. The people live that far from anything.
I know. And it was a decent hike. I mean, it was a good 1 3/4 mile one way. I think it was a 3.5 mile round trip, something like that. But once you get up there, it's just these crazy views of just overlooking everything again. Like, it was this kind of ravine thing that was overlooking. So you just kind of see all the trees on the other side. Like, it was just, I can't get over just the views of Arkansas and of just the wildlife.
And a lot of these are incredible pics too. So I got it looks like it's kind of a mixture of your camera and phone camera.
These are mostly from my actual camera.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I took my camera with me everywhere on this trip.
Yeah. It really shows in a lot of them. These are great pics.
Yeah. It was just great views. It was awesome. Like, this was a sign when you were walking into it, warning, high cliff area, keep away from cliff edges. Like, that was the only warning you get the entire time, was this one sign.
Yeah, beyond that, good luck. We tried. We warned you.
Yep. Watch out for yourselves.
I went to school at the cliff edges.
Mm-hmm. Also, we used to call him High Cliff.
Hey.
But yeah, then we kept driving because we wanted to go up to Branson, Missouri, because it was only about an hour north of there, and we'd already driven an hour and a half to get to that spot. So we were like, we'll drive up to Branson, go to a brewery and some other places that have some other things we wanted to check out. So we stopped in there, had a nice little beer. It was like their Oktoberfest celebration they were ended, but they were just like it was Turkey Creek Brewery in Hollister, Missouri. But they were just super friendly. Like, I guess it's just the Midwest aspect of it. Like, they're just constantly like, what can we do to help you? Things like that. Like, it was awesome.
Yeah, places outside of Texas are pretty good, man.
Yeah, it was weird. And then, yeah, we just drove back, but we came back down the whole way down 123, and it took an hour and a half turning off in Western Grove onto 123 to drive the 30-ish miles back to where we were, because it was just all mountain roads. You couldn't go faster than maybe 50 the whole way at max, and most of the corners were like 20 miles an hour maybe.
Yeah.
So that was the Saturday, and then the Sunday was a more chill day. We really just kind of drove up 123 a little bit, and we found a couple spots we wanted to go check out. So one of them was just this massive, I'm trying to find a picture that shows the scale of it, because it was probably 100 feet straight up of just a stone wall, but it was this 100 feet straight up hike to get to the stone wall. Wow. But again, it was just on the side of the highway. You park, there were a couple of rocks indicating the trailhead. You just walk into the woods randomly, and eventually you end up at these crazy views of just the mountains and everything.
How did you find these, though? Did you literally there's a little sign and you're like, let's just park here? Or did you plan out to go to something like that?
There is a little thing here on Google Maps showing Pam's Grotto Trail. So we knew the general area of where it was.
Okay.
So we just kind of parked on the side of the road next to it and found the rocks and then walked up the trail.
Jesus.
That was literally it. Like, it's unmarked. It's just.
That's incredible. Okay.
And then right
I
down the
wouldn't
street
even know how to do that. You know what I mean? I would love to, but anyway.
I didn't either. It's just you make it up and you go with it. And then, right down the street from it was this place called Haw Creek, which was basically this campground, but it was on a creek that was kind of dried up at the moment. But it was also just crazy views of like when you're standing down there, you look up and you just see the mountains around you with the trees in the background. And it was just the most pure nature I've seen in years, honestly, like just unpolluted in every way, just clean water, clean air, no cars around, no trains, no planes, nothing, just nature.
Imagine if you waited a couple weeks and went like peak foliage.
I know.
That would be sweet.
Yeah, but now that you know the area a little bit too, you could go, you can go in the spring, you can go in the fall, you can go, like that's.
But there's so many other places to go.
Oh, sure.
Exactly. There's the other side of those like mountains to go. And then, we just did that short little hike and then came back, made tacos, drank margaritas, and hung out the rest of the Sunday. And that was it. And again, just crazy sunset views. Dogs are running around in the evening. The cows were out. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, that was the view the last night with just mountains in the background, cows right next to us. Like, it was awesome.
Now, do you carry a weapon with you?
I had mace with me the whole time.
Not mace the spray. Oh, mace.
No, the wrapper.
That's probably the safest alternative, really.
We did actually order bear mace off of Amazon, so I had a couple little containers of bear mace. So in case anything came by me, I'd at least be able to spray it or whatever, But
nice.
Yeah. And then,
I'd freak out and just throw the bottle at it.
Slashed.
And then, Sunday we woke up early and drove back, and that was it. But the conclusion I have come to, or the assumption I have come to, is that there's so many stereotypes about people in Arkansas being assholes to everybody, being racist and stuff. I'm pretty sure it's only because they don't want people to move to the state because it's so naturally beautiful, and they don't want people to come in and pollute it, buy all the land, turn it into developments, turn it into all this bullshit that every other state has done. So they're just like, just stay away. We hate you in every single thing you do. So don't move here.
I mean, it's possible.
Yeah, it's what Jamestown's been doing for 50 years.
Well,
it's working.
Exactly.
That I may be different motives. I'm not 100% sure there, but not sure.
But yeah, basically, I highly recommend Arkansas if under certain criteria for certain people. I would not recommend everybody to go there. But if you are going there, make sure you download maps ahead of time on Google Maps. Make sure you plan for gas stations being far between each other. Make sure you're prepared for roads that are not friendly to all cars. And make sure you're prepared for very steep incline hikes. And as long as you're prepared for those things, you'll have a great time of being totally disconnected from the world and getting no cell service for an entire day and just being out in nature.
That sounds amazing. I don't know if I could ever do it, but it sounds amazing. I would have to go with somebody has experience with that, because if I would go out there like by myself or with somebody else that's out there for the first time, I would not make it back. I would die. I know that. So I would like to go with somebody who's more experienced in that. That I could do. So what I'm saying, Ray, is next time you go out there, I'm going to be the third wheel. That's what's going to happen.
There you go.
I definitely want to get back. Maybe to the other side of the Ozark Mountains, because we were more on the eastern side of Arkansas, but there's so much more on the western side that's still explorable, and there's so much stuff on the side we were on that we didn't even get to. So, I mean, you have hundreds of miles of mountains to explore. There's endless. Like, if I ever suddenly disappear and nobody can get in contact with me, I've most likely just moved to the Ozark Mountains and just gone off the grid.
I've actually already chipped you, so I will always know where you are.
Yeah, don't you remember? BBC made us. They chipped us all.
It's actually just an Apple AirTag. I sort of inserted it in your bum when we were sharing a hotel one time.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
By the way, it's time to try and change that battery.
Looks like we got to share a hotel room again soon.
You know it. Well, yeah, our time. We better wrap this up before we get preempted here to, the coverage that's already been done. Mm-hmm. It's a real shame. We were really on a roll, and I think if you've listened this far, please don't listen any further and leave Mr. Kincaid a review wherever you were listening to this. Well, and just say, no to AI, taking over we have worked hard for this.
I will say one thing. He said nothing about video. So YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, thank you. That didn't count. So we got out of that whole thing. If you don't know what we're talking about, go back, listen to episode 496 in entirety, and that'll make more sense. But YouTube, we'll see you later. Listeners, stick around or don't, or I'm not sure what we're telling you to do.
Well, no, yeah, there's you can continue to listen to the episode, and I mean, we don't want you to. BBC would like you to. They'd like more people to listen to it. That's the thing. Mm-hmm. So that they can get rid of us.
They just, they don't want to pay us anymore.
Right. But we're just doing whatever. So we'll, I guess it's going to be hard to even end it traditionally, because it's just the end of us. But
yeah, I'm not signing off when it's just us.
So don't.
Ready to dive in. We're going deep into all those fascinating tech tales, your latest AI experiments, and even your surprising taste in sports and entertainment. It's amazing how technology touches every part of our lives these days.
Oh, absolutely. And you've got stories for days, from those phantom internet outages to that whole debate about what even counts as a movie now with these YouTube marathons. It really gets you thinking, doesn't it?
It sure does. So let's start with that home automation mystery that had you stumped. Your internet went down for hours, right in the middle of something important.
Picture this. It's midnight and poof, the internet's gone. Vanished. And get this, it happened not once, but twice. The first time, it was out for hours. The second time, just a quick blip. Who schedules maintenance at that hour?
It's like a tech-savvy ghost messing with your router. Speaking of unpredictable tech, you mentioned some tire troubles, too. A low tire warning at 60 miles an hour. Not exactly how I'd want to start my day.
Yeah, and from the way you described it, the mechanics seemed to get a kick out of the whole thing. They saw how worn those tires were.
Hey.
Couldn't resist a little ribbing, you know?
I bet they did. It's a good reminder to stay on top of car maintenance, though. But since we're on the topic of cars, we have to talk about the electric vehicle dilemma you've been wrestling with. Range anxiety seems to be a big one, especially with all the driving you do.
Rightfully so. It's easy enough to charge at home, but finding those charging stations on longer trips, now that's a valid concern, especially for anyone living in an apartment or if you don't have that dedicated parking space at home for a charger.
True. You even brought up diesel engines, which is an interesting angle. Most people jump straight to electric, but you were weighing the pros and cons of diesel, too.
Yeah, you know, diesel engines, they can be more fuel efficient than gasoline, but they have their quirks. You even mentioned that rather unique aroma of a diesel engine going through a regen, if you know what I mean.
A regen. Now, you've got to explain that one. It sounds intriguing.
Right. So regen, short for regeneration, it's basically a process diesel engines use to burn off this excess soot that builds up in the exhaust system. Let's just say it's not the most pleasant smell in the world.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'll stick with my gas-powered car for now. But speaking of memorable scents, can we talk about that deep dive you went on into the science of, well, farts?
Ah, yes. The symphony of the digestive system. It's amazing how much of what we think of as flatulence is actually just swallowed air, especially for those of us who tend to breathe through our mouths more often.
Wait, so mouth breathing can lead to more toots? You learn something new every day. And come to think of it, you said that mouth breathing can also make snoring worse, which brings us to another thing you've been thinking about, getting a good night's sleep.
It's a common struggle these days, isn't it? The constant demands of modern life, that blue light from our devices, it all adds up. And from what I gathered, it sounds like you've been experiencing some things that line up with what's called andropause.
Andro what now? Okay, break that one down for me.
It's kind of like the male version of menopause. As men get older, testosterone levels naturally decline. And that can lead to all sorts of symptoms, fatigue, trouble sleeping, even mood swings. Sounds familiar.
It does, actually. So it's not all in my head. There's a biological reason for it.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder how common this actually is.
You're right. It's more common than people think, but not often talked about. Speaking of addressing health concerns, remember that AI health app you tried? The one that claims it can diagnose you just by scanning your face.
Oh, yeah. The one that gives you tokens for participating. It's like they're gamifying healthcare, which is kind of cool and a little concerning at the same time. How accurate could it even be?
That's the big question, isn't it? From what I understand, it's still early days for the app, but it did manage to analyze your heart rate, breathing rate, even gave you an estimated skin age.
It even calculated your risk for cardiovascular disease, which is impressive, if it's accurate, of course.
Right, which is why there's that disclaimer at the bottom, for investigation purposes only. It's not replacing a real doctor's visit just yet.
Probably for the best. As much as I love the idea of high-tech health insights, I'm not quite ready to put my life in the hands of an app, especially one that thinks I look 44 years old.
Well, to be fair, you did say your heart rate was a bit high during that scan. Maybe it was picking up on your nerves.
Maybe. Speaking of things that get the heart racing, Premier League soccer is back, and it sounds like you're fully invested in Arsenal's pursuit of a title.
And who can blame him? Their first title in 20 years. That draw against Brighton, though, and that controversial red card, I bet that had fans on the edge of their seats.
Don't even get him started on that red card. He had some strong opinions about that one. But hey, there's always the TST to look forward to the soccer tournament. You've become quite a fan of this fast-paced alternative to traditional soccer.
It makes sense. The games are shorter, there's less stoppage time, and that unique format really encourages more goals. Plus, with more teams joining in this year, even a dedicated women's team, the TST is really gaining some serious momentum.
Who knows? Maybe it'll even give the World Cup a run for its money someday.
Speaking of global competitions, the Olympics are just around the corner. Any early predictions for Team USA?
Let's just say he's hoping they bring home more medals than TNT, whatever that is.
Yeah, that's one for the mystery files, isn't it? From what we can gather, TNT might be a country or territory with a less than stellar Olympic track record.
Ouch. Well, hey, at least they're out there competing, right? On a brighter note, did you hear that breakdancing is officially an Olympic sport now?
From the streets to the world stage. It shows how the Olympics are evolving, embracing new forms of athleticism.
And speaking of athleticism, you mentioned a newfound interest in breakdancing yourself.
Well, it all started with his research on the upcoming Olympics. He came across the fact that breakdancing, or breaking, as they call it officially, was actually featured in the Summer Youth Olympic Games in Buenos Aires way back in 2018. After its success there, boom, it made it into the Paris 2024 Olympica program.
So now he's thinking, did I miss my calling? Maybe it's time to dust off those dancing shoes. Or maybe just stick to cheering from the sidelines.
I think sticking to the sidelines might be the safer bet.
Probably wise. But hey, a little armchair enthusiasm never hurt anyone. Speaking of entertainment, we have to talk about that surprise movie premiere you went to.
The screening of My Old Ass?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Going to the theater with absolutely no idea what you're going to watch? That's bold.
Talk about taking a chance on cinema. What made you go for it?
Apparently, these secret screenings are becoming a thing now. $5 a ticket, and it's movie roulette. It's a pretty smart way for studios to build some buzz before a film's official release.
And it sounds like it worked. You said the film itself, starring Aubrey Plaza, was excellent, even though it doesn't actually come out for a few more weeks. That's how you create word-of-mouth marketing gold.
Exactly. It gets people curious, gets them talking, hopefully leads to some box office success. A win-win for everyone, except maybe for those who hate surprises, of course.
Good point. Switching gears a bit, you also mentioned watching a documentary about Biosphere 2, a project that's always fascinated me.
It's such an intriguing story, isn't it? For those who don't know, Biosphere 2, it was this incredibly ambitious experiment back in the early 90s. The idea was to build this totally self-sustaining, closed ecological system, essentially, a mini Earth, all under glass.
Like something out of science fiction. And the documentary really got into the challenges they faced, from managing the atmosphere to the, interpersonal conflicts within the group. It's a fascinating look at both the scientific and human sides of such a daring endeavor.
For sure. It really highlights how, even with the most meticulous planning, there are always curveballs when you're dealing with something as complex as an entire ecosystem. Speaking of curveballs, remember that conversation you had about whether those marathon-length YouTube videos can actually be considered movies?
The Great Oregon Trail debate. It's a question that keeps popping up as the lines between traditional media and online content get blurrier and blurrier. Where do you draw the line? Is it the length, the production quality, the way the story's told?
And for you, this whole debate was sparked by a YouTube legend's final video, a swan song dedicated to the classic game Oregon Trail, of all things.
A true digital historian bowing out with a heartfelt hour-and-a-half tribute to Oregon Trail. Now that's dedication.
It really gets you thinking about legacy in the digital age, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. These creators, they build these communities, they share their passions and their impact. It can be just as profound as any filmmaker or author.
It's a good reminder that even in the pixelated world of the internet, you can still find meaningful stories. You can make real connections. That's a thought-provoking note to end on, but we're just getting started. There's so much more to uncover in this deep dive into your world.
You're telling me? From the world of competitive gaming to philosophical ponderings about the multiverse, we've got a lot more ground to cover.
So before we got sidetracked by breakdancing, we were talking about legacies in the digital age. And that actually connects to another thing you were saying about wanting a better way to navigate this whole streaming world, which seems to get more massive by the day, you know?
Oh, tell me about it. Using that PlayStation for most of your streaming, but that search function, you said it's just not cutting it.
It's clunky, to put it mildly. Inaccurate rental info, limited to those PlayStation apps. Not exactly what I'd call a recipe for a relaxing movie night.
Not at all. But here's where it gets good. You mentioned a website, Just Watch Right. That sounds like it could be a game changer, seriously.
Right. Imagine one place for all your streaming data across all these different platforms. We're talking Netflix, Disney+, Hulu, even Crunchyroll for those anime nights.
And the best part, Just Watch tells you up front, is it included with what you're already paying for, or do you got to rent or buy it? No more going through a million menus, only to hit that paywall right when you're about to hit play.
Genius, right? Just goes to show people see a problem in this digital world and they build a solution. Speaking of maximizing resources, those library cards. Turns out they're like golden tickets to a whole world of free streaming.
Seriously. Some libraries, they offer access to this platform called Kanopy. It sounds incredible, especially if you're in documentaries, indie films, educational stuff.
don't forget those classic films. You found some great sci-fi titles on there, too. It's like having a curated streaming service just for us lifelong learners, all thanks to the local library.
It really is. Talk about getting your money's worth from those tax dollars.
Okay.
Shifting gears a bit, because we got to talk about that competitive spirit of yours. You're not just watching sports. You like to add a little wagering excitement to the mix.
What can I say? Little friendly competition keeps things interesting. You mentioned Olympic betting, which sounds equal parts exhilarating and, well, maybe a little chaotic.
Especially with, hundreds of events and thousands of athletes to keep track of? But then there's that platform you found, Polymarket. Now that one takes the whole betting game to another level.
Right. It's like sports betting, the stock market, and cryptocurrency all rolled into one.
So one of the markets you mentioned was predicting the outcome of that Kansas City Chiefs versus Baltimore Ravens season opener. Users buy shares based on their prediction, and then the market, it resolves based on the actual game result.
I know, it's fascinating. It's not just about who wins or loses. It's how confident you are in your prediction. Totally different way to engage.
Exactly. It's like instead of companies, you're investing in, the performance of your favorite athletes or teams. And speaking of high-stakes creativity, we got to talk about that AI music generator you've been playing around with.
Oh, man, where to even begin? Interesting. Doesn't even cover the sounds coming out of that thing.
The name alone, Mailbox by Grandma.
Yeah.
That's enough to pique anyone's curiosity. And then you played a bit of the lyrics.
Which, let's just say they were something else. Pillow marks, liquid fire, a double chorus. It's like the AI tapped into some hidden vault of like subconscious anxieties and then turned it into this weirdly catchy song.
It just goes to show AI creativity can be as fascinating as it is unnerving. You get these weird combinations of these phrases you'd never expect from a human songwriter.
It really makes you wonder, what is the AI picking up on? What's it seeing that we're missing?
Speaking of things we might be missing, how about that whole saga with your security cameras? You were trying to find the perfect angle to capture those doorstep deliveries.
Oh man, don't remind me. I went through like a dozen positions before I found one that actually worked.
The old angle, as I recall, mostly captured you pacing back and forth across your living room. Not exactly ideal home security footage, right?
Exactly. But then a breakthrough. This new angle perched up high in the corner, it gives this like commanding view of the whole area. It's like I've got a watchful owl silently guarding against those porch pirates.
And speaking of vigilant guardians, we have to talk about your deep dive into the world of smart toilets.
Okay. I admit it. I went down a bit of a rabbit hole on that one. But in my defense, it's fascinating, right? I mean, it's technology in the bathroom of all places.
I'll give you that. And you went all in on the details, too. We're talking in-depth analysis of the features, the potential design flaws.
Not to mention the whole ethics of data collection when it comes to our bathroom habits. Who needs that kind of judgment?
You even came up with the term big dick toilet for the more, shall we say, advanced models.
Hey, some of those features are pretty impressive. I will admit, though, that whole weight measurement thing gave me pause. I mean, yeah, could be useful for tracking your health trends, but on the other hand, do I really need my toilet keeping tabs on my weight?
It's a slippery slope for sure. Who wants to step off the scale after a big meal only to have their toilet broadcasting their disappointment to the cloud?
Exactly. Talk about an invasion of privacy. Plus, as I pointed out, you shift your foot placement even slightly, and those measurements are all over the place. So maybe not the most reliable health tracker.
Definitely something to think about. Now, before we get too deep into the ethics of bathroom tech, let's circle back to that philosophical rabbit hole you went down, the one about the many worlds theory.
Ah, yes. That mind-blowing idea that every decision we make, every path we don't take, it all creates a new branch in this multiverse, an infinite number of parallel realities.
It's enough to make your head spin. It really challenges everything we think we know about, reality itself, about choice, about the very nature of existence.
And what really got to you was the idea that there are all these other versions of ourselves out there living out all those what-if scenarios.
Right. It's exciting, but also a bit terrifying to think there's another you out there who made different choices, went down different paths.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What if I'd taken that job? What if I'd said yes to that date?
And are any of those other yous out there living happier, more fulfilling lives? And if so, what does that say about the choices we've made in this reality?
Deep stuff. But we need those big questions, don't we? It's how we learn, how we grow, how we make sense of it all.
Couldn't agree more. And speaking of making sense of things, you also spent some time grappling with those ethical implications of data breaches, right? And the potential downsides of those social credit systems that everyone's talking about.
It's scary stuff, for sure. It seems like every other day there's a new story about some massive data breach exposing everyone's personal information. I even shared that story about my own credit card getting compromised, 2-3 times over the years? It makes you realize how vulnerable we are in this digital age.
And the worst part is, in a lot of cases, we don't even know what happens to that stolen data. Is it just sitting on some server somewhere waiting to be used? Or is it already being used for, I don't know, identity theft, fraud, who knows what else?
It's a chilling thought. And then you add on top of that the rise of social credit systems. These things are becoming more and more common in certain parts of the world. It's like something straight out of dystopian fiction.
It really is a slippery slope. And as you mentioned, there's a very real concern that these systems, they could be used to control and manipulate people, not just promote trustworthiness.
Exactly. And you made a really good point about the banking system, how people with low account balances often get hit with higher fees, fewer opportunities. It's like the system is designed to keep them trapped.
And you could easily see that same logic being applied to these social credit systems. The people who are already struggling, who are already at a disadvantage, they're the ones who end up getting penalized even further by a system that's judging them based on what? Incomplete data, biased data. It's definitely something we need to be very cautious about as we move further into this whole data-driven world.
It's a call to action, isn't it? We can't just sit back and let this happen. We need to be aware, ask the tough questions, demand some transparency, and make sure these technologies are used for good, not for control.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Now, how about we lighten the mood a bit before we wrap things up? Remember that hilarious anecdote about the jizz blanket?
Oh, man, that story. It's one of those mysteries that will probably never be solved.
But it is a good reminder that even in the midst of life's everyday chaos, sometimes you just gotta laugh, right?
Absolutely. And speaking of unexpected entertainment, you mentioned going to a gaming tournament. I did. Checked out a local competition for this game called XDefiant. I gotta say, I was blown away by the energy, the excitement, the whole thing.
It sounds pretty intense.
Intense is an understatement. Picture this. A first-person shooter, but each faction, they've got these unique abilities, special weapons, adds a whole other layer to the game, strategy-wise.
That's awesome. And the best part, you said it's free to play, right? A welcome change in this world of expensive AAA titles.
Right. Proof that you don't need a massive budget to make a truly fun, engaging game.
And speaking of engaging, what about that AI chatbot you've been trying out? The one that supposedly has an answer for everything.
Oh, you mean the all-knowing AI Oracle? Yeah, I put it through its paces, and I gotta say, it's impressive. And a little unnerving how much it knows.
What kind of questions did you ask it?
Well, you know how confusing everyone found that new Champions League format? Figured I'd throw that at the chatbot, see if it can make sense of it.
And what happened? Did it crash and burn?
Not even close. It gave this clear, concise explanation, complete with references, examples, even linked me to a YouTube channel that breaks it down visually. Like having a personal sports commentator right in my pocket.
That's incredible. AI has come a long way, hasn't it? It's not just spitting back information anymore. It's actually, synthesizing it, making connections, actually giving helpful insights.
Makes you wonder, are we heading towards a future where AI is our go-to for knowledge? Will we all have our own personal AI oracles?
It's definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
But even with all the advancements, there's still something uniquely human about how we learn, how we share what we know. It's not just about getting the right answer. It's about the journey, making connections, telling stories about the world around us.
And that, I think, sums up this whole deep dive perfectly. We've covered so much ground, from the everyday to the profound, the hilarious to the thought-provoking. It's been a real glimpse into, how your mind works.
It's been a pleasure.
So before we wrap up this deep dive into your world, there were a few more things we wanted to touch on. Remember that unusual medical condition you came across? Hand-arm vibration syndrome, or HAVS, was it? Who knew something as ordinary as yard work could lead to something like that?
Right. And you said you'd experienced similar symptoms yourself, especially after using those power tools for a long time.
Yeah, I guess those weed-whacking marathons weren't the best idea.
Turns out all those vibrations, from things like chainsaws, jackhammers, even those innocent-looking weed whackers, it can actually damage the nerves and blood vessels in your hands and arms over time.
Makes you think twice about those gas-powered gardening gadgets.
It really does. And it makes you wonder, what other everyday things are we doing that might have these hidden health risks?
Exactly. And, it reminds me of the conversation about social credit systems and how easily they could be abused. That's a topic that's really got people talking these days.
And for good reason. The idea that your access to opportunities, maybe even basic freedoms, could be determined by some score based on, like, your online activity, your perceived trustworthiness. It's unsettling, to say the least.
It's like something out of a dystopian movie, isn't it? And as you pointed out, it could really hurt those who are already disadvantaged, trapping them in the cycle of limited choices.
Exactly. You drew a really good parallel to the banking system, how people with lower account balances get hit with all these extra fees, fewer options. It's like the system itself is designed to keep them down.
It's true, and it's a scary thought that those same dynamics could easily play out with social credit systems. The people who are already struggling, they're the ones who get penalized even more by a system that's making judgments based on, incomplete data, biased algorithms. We need to be really careful about this as we move further into this data-driven future.
Absolutely. We need to be aware. We need to be asking tough questions, demanding transparency, and making sure these technologies are being used responsibly. This isn't some sci-fi movie. It's the world we're living in.
Well said. Now, on a lighter note, gotta end on a positive vibe. Remember that whole hilarious jizz blanket saga?
Oh man, how could I forget? Some mysteries are never meant to be solved, right?
But hey, it's a good reminder that sometimes you just gotta laugh at the absurdity of it all.
Couldn't agree more. But before we go, we should probably mention that AI chatbot you've been experimenting with. The one that supposedly has all the answers.
Oh, the all-knowing AI. It's definitely something else. I threw a real curveball at it, asked it to explain that new Champions League format that's got everyone so confused.
Did it implode?
Not even close. It gave this perfectly clear, concise explanation. References, examples. It even linked me to a YouTube channel with a visual breakdown of the whole thing. It was incredible. Like having my own personal sports commentator right there in my pocket.
That is both impressive and a little scary. It makes you wonder, though, are we headed towards a future where everyone relies on these AI assistants for everything?
It's a real possibility, right? But for now, I think I'll stick to enjoying the journey of figuring things out for myself. The little discoveries, those unexpected connections we make along the way, those are the moments that really make life interesting.
I couldn't agree more.
Well, on that note, it looks like we've reached the end of our deep dive. To everyone listening, thanks for coming along for the ride. Until next time, keep those conversations flowing, keep those questions coming, and keep exploring all the fascinating corners of this crazy world we live in. We'll see you on the next episode of The Deep Dive.